I remember when the first BMW X6 arrived on the scene, and back then it was a little bit interesting. You see, nobody had really made a coupe version of an SUV. In fact, BMW coined the phrase SAC, Sports Activity Coupe, to describe the X6 as a means of further differentiating it from the X5 that it was based on. These days, a coupe version of an SUV, well, they're 10 a penny, aren't they? Audi makes even a Q3 Sportback. There's the Mercedes GLE Coupe, which is a direct rival for this. And there are a whole host of others. Porsche now make a Cayenne Coupe. So these days it's become a lot more normal to have this type of body style. Now, speaking of body styles, over the subsequent generations, the X6 has really grown, and I mean grown in every direction. This thing is absolutely enormous. I'm 5'9", and as you can see, it's towering over me. Quite why you need a car like this, well, there's really no argument to make there. You don't need a car like this. This is a car that you want. This is a status symbol. This is something that you want people to see you driving in, hence the bright blue paintwork, the 21-inch wheels. Just look at those grills, for example. One other feature that some people might not like about that is that those grills are even illuminated. So when you unlock the car at night, they light up. The design of the X6 is at best described as divisive, and it's got some kind of unusual features. I mean, BMW has incorporated this air breather design that it has on a number of models, except on the X6 it's all filled in. It doesn't do anything. And then when you go further along the car, the way the window line slopes up here, and it shows just how much mass there is here with this car. It has a lot of bulk in its rear quarter, and the fact that these are 21-inch wheels, they look really small on a car of this size. The sloping roofline does come down, and you get this aerodynamic wings on the back of it, and same on the spoiler on the leading edge of the boot, although that's actually something that's visible when you do look behind the car. And then you have yet more vents that are filled in and don't do anything. There's a lot of fakery with this car. You get these broad, slender taillights across the rear. They also add a sense of width to the car. And then it's broken up a little bit by this grey insert here around the exhaust pipes, which I am pleased to say are real. There is exhaust pipes inside there, and they do stick out of them. Even with that sloping roofline, BMW still manages to equip the X6 with quite a large amount of storage. The standard boot space is 580 litres, and you can increase that to 1,530 by folding down the rear seats. Now, you do get a tonneau cover, and that does actually fold back in out of the way, or you can take it out. One thing you might notice that it does have quite a high load height. Now, what you can do, because this car is equipped with air suspension, is if you press this button, what happens is it will actually then lower the rear of the car down, so it hunkers the back of the car down on the air suspension. It does make it a little bit easier then if you do have to load in heavier items. As you can see though, it does take a little bit of a while to do. It's not quite as quick as, for example, something like a Land Rover Defender does. But nevertheless, you can at least do that. It does make it a little bit easier, and the actual space itself is quite good. It's quite a wide aperture, and once that is a little bit lower, you only have a small little load height to get over, and it should make it quite easy then to get heavier items into the back. Now, whatever your thoughts might be on these oversized and illuminated grills, one thing that does work very well are the laser headlights. Now, these are the latest of what BMW offers in terms of illumination technology, and having driven this car on an unlit rural road in complete darkness, it's really, really impressive how well these light up the road ahead. They are an expensive thing to have on the car, but definitely if you live in rural settings where you are going to be on unlit roads in very dark environments, these I think are well worth an investment actually. They work really, really well. And one other feature is that when you do actually unlock the car, as well as illuminating the grills, these do actually have quite a neat light animation, and it highlights the blue accents inside. But yeah, theatricals aside, they work very, very well, and they're actually one of the standout features of this car is just how well they work at night. The interior of the X6 is pretty much what you will find in any of the higher models in the BMW lineup. So there is a nice sense of familiarity to it if you've been in any of those, such as the 5 Series or the X5. There's a nice mix between digital screens, so you've got a instrument cluster in front of you and a large touchscreen display here, but there's also physical controls for things like the climate control, your heated seats, and even the radio functions and a series of shortcut buttons. Other controls then are housed in here, so this is all your driving settings and the iDrive itself. So you've got this crystal gear selector. I am on the record as saying I'm not a fan of this. I think it looks cheap and tacky, but that's what you get with it. And you have your drive experience modes here, so Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro, and an adaptive setting which reacts more so to how you're currently driving. You can also adjust the air suspension here, so this has a adjustable ride height. That will also change according to what driving mode you're in. And then you have the iDrive controller. I do like that BMW retains a rotary controller for this. Although you can use the touchscreen to control everything, it is quite nice to use this. It's a bit more intuitive to use. It's very easy to quickly scroll through different functions and different aspects of the menu system. Then for the infotainment system itself, well, it's quite nicely laid out. The screen is very clear, it's very easy to use. Everything is in large fonts and it works very well. Even using wireless Apple CarPlay works quite well. And then the rest of the cabin, well, the quality feels very nice. You've got these quite large and chunky door pulls. They're a bit more, I suppose, adding to the slight off-road nature of the car. This particular one has carbon fiber inserts on the door here, all of the center console, and across the top of the front of the dashboard fascia. It all looks nice, but there are a lot of different choices available, so you can obviously tailor the interior to look a certain way. The seats are also quite comfortable. They've got this quite nice and upmarket looking quilted sort of leather interior to it, and generally it's quite practical, it's comfortable. The only thing I find is that although you are sitting quite high up in the car, the visibility for this car isn't actually great, the outward visibility. It's okay in the front here, and in actual fact the A-pillar is not that chunky, but rear vision is very, very limited on account of the very narrow and angled shape of the rear window, so it's not great in that respect. And it's going to be even worse actually if you've got people in the back. You're effectively going to have to be almost reliant on your side mirrors or the quite clear reversing camera when you are parking. In fact, you'll always have to use that, even though it's got quite a blunt rear end. I find that I always am relying on the reversing camera in this particular car. In the forward section of the center console, it slides up to reveal 2 cup holders. In this particular car, they're also heated and cooled, so you can keep your drink nice and chilled or make sure that your coffee stays warm all the way to the office. There's also a 12-volt power socket, a USB-A port, and a wireless charging pad. That also has a little bit of a notch in it, and the reason is it's so that you can keep the key in there, because BMW also offers this rather oversized key. Now you do need to keep this charged, and you can do so simply by leaving it on the center console, and it will do various different things. For example, when you push in the side, it will reveal a small touchscreen. You can swipe it up and you can see whether your car is locked or unlocked. You can adjust the ride height control and even do things like see how much of a driving range you have left, or to set the climate control. Some might find it a bit of a gimmick to use. Personally, I just think it's a little bit bulky to always carry around, and I have been warned these are quite expensive to replace if you do drop them, because the screen can break, much like your smartphone. Now, what about space in the back? Well, it's actually, first of all, surprisingly easy to get into the back of the X6. And once you are here, I'll be honest, it's a little bit roomier than you might expect, even though it's got that sloping roofline. I'm 5'9", and I've got enough room. I've got an inch, 2 inches there. But I've even got quite a good amount of space in front of me actually. This driver's seat is set up for how I would be normally seated in the driver's seat, and actually you can even get your feet in underneath the seat in front, so that's not too bad as well. There's a little bit of a storage area in there, a little bit of a seat pocket, and overall it's not bad in here actually. You get the same large chunky door pulls here like you would have in the front. I've got separate controls back here for the climate control, and also heated seat functions for the two outer seats. There's no USB ports, but I do have a 12 volts power socket back there. Now, actually, even this middle seat's not that bad to sit on because there's not that much of a chunky transmission tunnel. So you can get your feet either side of that, and these people on the outer seats still have quite a good amount of legroom, and because of the way the center console is designed, you're actually not that bad. You can stretch your knees out a little bit, and even here I don't have any issues with headroom. Now, most people will probably prefer to only have two people back here, and you can pull down the armrest here, and there's also two pop-out cup holders and another small storage area in here. It's quite flat and it's not very deep, so I'm not quite sure how much stuff you're going to get in there, but it's handy to have a little bit of extra space in here anyway. On the move, the X6 is slightly surprising in a few ways. First of all, yes, it is a very big car, and you are aware of that, especially when you're driving on slightly narrower roads like I'm currently on. But what it does do is the air suspension does a great job of soaking up all of the surface imperfections, and it does give it quite a good ride. It's not super floaty either. It does actually retain a fair amount of composure on the move, and even at higher speeds it actually does quite a good job of behaving itself. The handling and body control are what you'd expect for a car of this size. If you do want something a little bit sharper, a little bit more agile and higher performing, well, BMW will offer you an M version of this car too. And even though you have a number of driving modes, I've actually found most of the time it's best just left in comfort, and that gives you a really nice balance of performance but also of comfort, and that's, I guess, is one of the reasons you're going to buy this car. This is really a car that will devour long distances. It's helped by the fact that that 3-litre straight six engine is full of torque, 620 newton meters of the stuff, and it just seems to pull this car along absolutely effortlessly in that respect. Now, there is a little bit of road noise on the move, particularly from those large 21-inch tires, but although you're not exactly cocooned in an isolated bubble, it is very, very comfortable to do long journeys in. But by far the best feature of this is the engine. That straight six is just gorgeous. It delivers creamy, buttery smooth torque in bucket loads. You never need to rev this thing at all. It's just always ready to pull, and actually when you do start to drive it with a little more enthusiasm, if you do drop the window down, you can hear the turbos swooshing and swirling around and doing all they do to help deliver that performance. There's not a lot of diesel engines that are all that nice or all that pleasant to drive with. Usually it's just about economy more than anything else. BMW knows how to do straight six engines. They've been doing them for years, and even in this diesel setup, it just feels so nice, so effortless. It works really well with the 8-speed automatic gearbox as well. That's another thing BMW really do have absolutely licked in that regard. And it's just a very comfortable car to drive in. The X6 is a car that's all about image. But these days, is this the kind of image you want to be projecting of yourself? I mean, yes, it is a refined, it's a comfortable SUV, but there are so many other things that are just that bit better than this, that offer every bit as much space and do so in, if I'm honest, a far less vulgar manner. The BMW X6, well, let's face it, nobody's going to let you have a junction in one, and most people, when they see you pull up, will already have a certain idea of who you are before you even step out of the car. Anyway, that's been our review of this SUV or SAC behemoth. If you want to know more about this or any of its rivals, please do visit our website, CompleteCar.ie. You'll find detailed reviews and specifications of all those models there. And if you have enjoyed the video, do give it a thumbs up. But more importantly, we want you to get involved in the comments section below and tell us what you think about this car and, well, how a car like this sits in 2020. If you don't already, please do consider subscribing to the Complete Car YouTube channel. And if you do that, when you hit the notification bell, you'll be alerted to the next time we upload a new video. Thanks for watching.